I'm going to show you the third match that happened in the final of 2018 WCS Leipzig tournament, where Showtime versus Serral played for the first spot. There are 7 games possible in total, so anybody that gets the first 4 wins will be crowned as the champion of WCS 2018 Leipzig tournament. Leipzig tournament is one of the 4 tournaments that make up Starcraft 2 championship series, championship circuit, and there are a lot more circuits. So this is pretty much the world circuit. There is a Korean circuit, and there is more events out there that make up the final championship. You can first of all take a look at the brackets, groups. Here's the statistics, map statistics, and you will be watching Showtime versus Serral. That's going to be the third match. The first 2 matches were won by Serral. He's a Zerg player, and Showtime is the Protoss player. Here you can see notable participants and the prizes, points, and actual winners of these brackets right here. As you know, the first place has won $20,000. They have played on quite a few maps here. This stage, the finals, have reached quite a bit of games because, as you already know, these players were losing and winning against each other. It wasn't a consistent decisive victory because both of players have won. Now we know that Leipzig is part of a Starcraft World Championship series, and these series have many tournaments in them, such as the circuit, the 4 main ones, challengers, IEM Katowice, with a whooping $250,000 prize pool. Then we have Korea side with GSL League Super Tournaments, and this all makes up into 8 players from Korea, 8 players from the circuit. And that's the breakdown right here. 2018 Starcraft 2 World Championship Series events, 2018 WCS Global events. You can watch the castings on AndYouLeftTheGame YouTube channel. You can find it by typing AndYouLeftTheGame into YouTube search bar. Go here and choose one of these 2 channels. One is AndYouLeftTheGame without blank space, another was AndYouLeftTheGame with blank space. So which one comes up? It could be that only one comes up. If 2, then choose the one without blank space right here. And go to playlists. Let's do this. And here, look at the recent activities, popular uploads, and find whatever you want to watch. There are quite a few games already played. If you're interested in Starcraft 2 matches, you can watch the castings there. Furthermore, if AndYouLeftTheGame with a blank space shows up, click on it and go to the featured channels, which will bring you to this channel of mine with all those castings. Now that you know the tournament, where the tournament stands in Starcraft 2 Championship final match tournament series, let's take a look at the players themselves. So the first of the 2 players is Showtime, who is a German professional Protoss player who accumulated a over $180,000 prize pool by playing Starcraft 2. And that's his history. You can stop the video and read about him. Then, as you can already notice, that he was in a professional scene for quite a few years already. And his notable prizes date back to 2013, where he won ESL Pro Series Germany Winter in 2013. I mean, won a prize of 550 euros and took one of these two places right here, either third or fourth. And here you can see his picture. Now his opponent is a Zerg player go by the name of Serral. He's a Finnish from Finland who accumulated over $130,000 in prize money. You can take a look at his notable achievements. It seems that his interviews go back to 2012, so he's certainly in this game for a very, very long time. As you can see, he was interviewed 2013, DreamHack Open in 2012, and you can certainly see these interviews go through the videos, read about him, and follow him on social media. Now let's go to the betting side, so we'll see what the professionals think. And the professionals are advising the bookies that Serral is the certain favorite in this match. So Serral versus Showtime. Serral goes with 1.67 odds versus Showtime of 2.23 odds. And now let's go into the match itself. So Serral begins his game. We'll be looking at his player camera here, and he starts off by queuing up his natural locations. As you can see, he queued up 5 locations, and he decides to move on to 2 locations in the west and 2 locations in the north. Now he's in this map where the third base is super easy for him right here. It can only be accessed through the pathway going through the south, and it can be reached through the north, so somebody would have to otherwise make a drop in here. That means Serral can open his third base without fearing any kind of an aggression. Now this game right here is going to be super economy focused, just like the previous games where Serral and Showtime, as if having some kind of a gentleman's agreement not to attack each other ferociously or cheese against each other, have built up quite a few bases. So now we'll see how a professional Starcraft 2 Zerg player is expanding himself. And we'll find out how in the next 5 minutes at least 4 bases will pop out, will be saturated, and an enormous economy, or the right economy with many harvesters, will be ready to face the Protoss. He sends his overlords to scout through, and he will be looking for any kind of cheese. It seems that the overlords are moving through the pathway where most likely zealots would be going. Obviously the zealots may as well go through the north east side of the map, and then the overlords wouldn't be able to spot those zealots, and the Serral wouldn't be building as many zerglings or wouldn't be issuing construction of static defense as he would otherwise. Now the first zerglings are already being built. He has 4 zerglings. On the other hand, the Protoss player by 2 minutes 30 has only 1 adept. Now 1 adept isn't that bad, because he can be consistently on the move. However, the Zerglings would eventually catch him, but 4 Zerglings certainly isn't that much. Now, the Zerg player will decide to spread his creep early on. At 2 minutes 50, the first tumor is placed, and he will try to create himself a channel. And with that channel, he'll try to go as close to the Protoss base as possible, so that he could build static defense close to Protoss bases that are being mined. He could much quicker move his Zergling units on creep, which will help him surround enemies faster. His Hydralisk will be able to go into position faster. And most importantly, the fog of war would disappear, and he would be able to see everything that's out there. As you can see, the constant upgrades are in effect, and that was a Zergling speed metamorphosis, where now Zerglings are moving around. As you can see, these Zerglings are not pressuring Protoss player whatsoever. They just look for any kind of entries, easy entries into enemies' mineral lines, but that is certainly not going to happen. So the Zerg will just focus further on expanding its bases. He currently has 3 bases. He knows that the Protoss player didn't have the 3rd early base, and that's only 4 minutes. And at 4 minutes, 3 bases is a big deal. He moves his queens, his 4 queens, to the 2nd base because he expects a massive push, or at least some kind of a cheese there at this point. But it seems that that's not going to happen. He decides to move his queens to the natural and expects some kind of an aggression. His queens are not by his main bases, so that means injects won't happen, and eventually Serral will lose out on large numbers of larvae. But guess what happened right there? Probably Serral felt that this kind of an air aggression is imminent, so he moved away his queens from the 2nd base, moved them into natural, and this is exactly where the first phoenixes showed up. Obviously that was very lucky to find, and only one spore crawler won't be able to deal with all those phoenixes. However, it can certainly destroy 1 or 2, but this wasn't the engagement Showtime wanted to have. He wanted to kill at least 5 or 7 of those drones, but decided to move away. However, these shields will go back very quickly. As you can see, less than a minute or so, and already the shields are up. But this time Serral will support this defense of Showtime's advance on air with additional queen. The harassment won't stop there. The phoenixes will try to shoot away all those overlords. Obviously Serral is very much squeezed with its overlord play. It cannot send overlords all around the map to scout, and these phoenixes become way less effective. 4 new tumors have started. This means that creep spread will increase dramatically to the north, and these phoenixes are being easily seen on the map. As you can already see, there's a unit at the observatory in the middle south map which has spotted all those phoenixes coming into the natural base, and already one was lost. It looks like Showtime is not making nearly as much as he would like to. However, I have no doubts that these phoenixes have inflicted at least 400 or 500 mineral damage, and this damage is certainly counting further. Now look at that, this was just absolutely incredible. These phoenixes are picking up anything that's in their way, and Serral, surprisingly enough, isn't even focusing on the army. Like, he has 8 lings and 7 queens. By this time, the Protoss player could as well have a massive number of zealots, maybe like 25 zealots, somewhere hidden, stacked up away, and he would attack with that, would ease kill off like 2 Serral bases, but that's obviously for another time. This time Showtime focuses exclusively on air harassment, and Serral is not even building any massive number of Zerglings, wasn't building a single Banelink. He's skipping out the early play. He decides to leave Banelings out just yet, and he wants to go in for Ravagers quickly. He wants to go for the Hydralisk, I guess, or even Ultralisk at this point in time, now that he wasn't spending money on different army units. Besides, probably that air harassment scared off Serral from investing too much into units such as roaches that wouldn't be able to hit air. These were a few illusions, and these illusions were sent into scout. However, Serral decides that it's time to build himself a force, a sizable force, and with the use of this force try and deny his opponent his 5th base. Just what exactly happened the last time. The last 2 games Showtime has lost solely because he wasn't able to expand or maintain his 5th base, and without the minerals Showtime wasn't left with anything. This was a super just simply well executed but super well countered Baneling drop into the 3rd Protoss base. And that's pretty much it. And they all have very secure 3rd bases. That's another drop lore that didn't got used properly. And guess what? It looks like Serral has transitioned into Baneling play, and all those Banelings are going to hit those Immortals right there. Boom! Not even the Storms are going to be that useful. The Protoss player decides to warp his units away. When I watched this the first time, I thought that the Protoss lost his entire army there, but it seems that he was very smart to get those units away. Now, in order for the Zerg player to engage as many of his units as possible at one point in time, he decides to attack the Protoss from 2 sides. However, here as you can see, the Protoss had just way too many air units, and all those Ravagers won't be nearly as effective against air units that can get away from all those attacks there. And now the Zerg player is forced to back away. There is no way to go about this. He has to retreat, and he will be gathering another force here. Many bases for the Zerg player are being currently mined or built. Now, if you take a look at the previous matches, Serral has been consistently outproducing the Protoss player and was consistently having more bases. At this time, as you can see, the 5th base is just simply not taken yet, and the Zerg player already has 6 bases. Probably Serral just can't believe that the 5th base is not taken. And the Baneling Zergling play won't be nearly as effective against all those storms that are upon. It seems that the Protoss player is very slow compared to the Zerg, but Zerg, surprisingly enough, isn't building all those upgrades. You know that this is certainly going into 12 minutes now, and Zerg player can afford massive numbers of Ultralisks. However, he just can't afford those upgrades being built. I'm not sure why that's happening, but that's the case here. Now, unfortunately for the Zerg player, his Lingram bite there was a complete disaster. All those High Templar won't have a problem fighting Zerg, and this time, instead of going for a Hydra Lurker play that's very vulnerable to High Templar storms, Serral decided to go for a Ultralisk Corruptor Baneling Zergling play, and obviously that isn't working out because there's not enough space for those Ultralisks to fight effectively. 6 bases are currently working, mining. If there are no mineral patches, then gas is being mined. And as you can see, the 5th base here is in question. Can Serral effectively deny once again Showtime's ability to hold 5th base? And if he can't, if Showtime can hold the 5th base, it's going to be all over because the Protoss won't be making any minerals. But on the other hand, Serral has decided to attack into the 2nd base. That was a massive wall-off. Now all of those Ultralisks will be bunching up, they won't be able to engage, and they would be attacked consistently by those air units there. Now another problem that Serral faces is that he has so many Ultralisks that only 3 or 4 at the very front can actually use their claws to fight, while the rest like 4 or 3 will be behind, and this is a waste of Ultralisks. However, that's how the map is designed, to choke massive armies into not shooting and not attacking. Now all of these Ultralisks will have to share that storm damage consistently here, and there's finally 5th base built by the Protoss player. However, it seems that the Zerg is successfully denying. As you can see, he already sent his 2 Ultralisks there and made sure that all the buildings in the 5th base have been destroyed, attacked in between the 2nd and 3rd, and that was just another attempt to fight for it, and it was certainly a unsuccessful attempt. More upgrades are on the way. Some static defense here against a potential drop. We can take a look at the upgrades, and now we see that Zerg has ground carapace level 2, while the Protoss only relied upon weapons. So it looks like the Protoss was as slow getting upgrades as the Zerg player too. It's 15 minutes and both of them don't have upgrades to the core. I'm not sure why they do that, because upgrades, they don't cost that much really. The first upgrades cost just 100 or so, and the later ones just over 200, just as one expensive unit would otherwise cost. Maybe they just don't want to do this for some kind of a reason. In any case, it seems that the Zerg player, as you have seen previously, wasn't able to deny Protoss 5th base. 5th base is there, it's running, and not only that, Zerg is suffering from counterattacks in its south west left corner base consistently. Now that is a very interesting play from Serral. He decides to build a fortification. So what does that mean? That means he wants to build maybe 7 spore crawlers close to his opponent's 5th base. In this way he wants to keep that fleet in check. And as you can see, Serral decided not to engage the 5th base. I personally believe that was a mistake, and he now will engage into a very fortified defensive position. Okay, yeah, he's going to commit. I thought this was a bait. Yeah, it's a bait. Just as I told you, it's a bait. He's baiting the fleet into his static defense wall over there. He wants to fight just over to the rockets here, and finally the Protoss player finds it, but they have suffered heavily from fungal growth. So fungal growth is very similar to storms, just may not be as effective to the Protoss units, because you see Zerg units are very kind of light, such as Hydralisks and Zerglings, and Protoss units are not nearly as light, such as Zealots, and they have a lot of health, and they just simply have a lot more stamina to take all that fungal growth damage. In any case, it seems that Zerg is expanding its hive just tremendously now. It has 8th base built in the top right corner. It's his. All those lings are going to die to storms. The fungal growth is on its way. The Ravagers were suffering from maybe 4 or 3 storms clumped up on top of each other. The entire ground army of Zerg has been completely eradicated, and the Protoss is able to march on that static defense now. The Zerg had 71 larvae available, so he can rebuild his army instantly only if the Zerg player would have the money. However, obviously he did have the money, and the army is on its way. In the meantime, the Protoss have taken the advantage and attacked the bottom left base, and it was very successful. As you can see, most of the Zerg units, in fact all of the Zerg units, are moving on the creep that has been spread all through the map. Probably something like 67 or 65% of the of the map is covered in creep at this point, and the Zerg has split his forces in two: large batch of Ultralisk and a large kind of army of Corruptors that should fight the fleet effectively. The Zerg, unfortunately for him, was unable to deny the 5th base, lost a major battle against the Protoss fleet, and that's probably due to the fact that the Zerg Ultralisks cannot attack air units, while previously all those Hydralisks were continuously attacking air units. I kind of suspect that Serral unfortunately has chosen a pathway where he believed that his Corruptors won't have a problem dealing with all those air units, while it turned out to be completely false, because all those Corruptors that Serral built can't do anything to that fleet. As you can see, every time those Corruptors try to engage the fleet, they are as good as dead. Now his ground army consists of Infestors who will take control of Protoss Archons here, and Ultralisks who will make sure that all ground units cannot overpower the Zerg. There are so many hives here to control. The speed of Serral moving all over is incredible. Obviously, sometimes he moves so fast it looks like he's panicking, but there's certainly a reason for it. For example, when his army gets destroyed, he needs to rebuild everything really quickly, derive a strategy from where he's going to recover, and obviously he has recovered very well. He's moving in to attack 2nd and 3rd base. However, these Ultralisks are going to be wiped out by all those air units, and this proved to be a complete and absolute disaster. It seems that Serral expected that the Protoss fleet is in the top right corner, while it was in the top left, close to the 2nd and 3rd base, and all those Ultralisks that were sent in there to fight and take out all those buildings have been completely destroyed. Now, as you can see here, the way Corruptors move is that they bunch up on top of each other, so a couple of storms would effectively deal damage to each and every one of those Corruptors that have been selected, and we are talking about 27 Corruptors here who could as well die from something like 3 storms bunched up on top of each other. So Zerg is certainly very much very vulnerable if he gets his corruptors close to that fleet that is protected by High Templar, who draws storms very effectively. It looks like each and every attack Serral has made was a complete disaster. He couldn't secure or deny Protoss' ability to build the 5th base as he did previously. Not only that, the Protoss built himself a 6th base, took the 7th base from the Zerg player and established himself there. His Protoss player is building fortifications with massive number of photon cannons around his 7th base and 6th base, so it's not going to be easy for all of those corruptors to get close to them. However, as you can see here, 27 corruptors can snipe away Nexus in a matter of seconds. An attack came into the lower bottom left corner, and those links can be seen there, so need to get away. All those Ultralists were so badly microed that they were just stacking beneath each other, like backs to them, and they couldn't attack the Zealots. He needed to queue some of them up to go around the hive and attack the Zealots from the other side. Without that, the Zealots easily killed off. So, as you can see, even such a high or such a good players and professional Starcraft 2 players will still make consistent mistakes while playing the game. So this game is so much micro unit management focus that doing everything perfectly is certainly difficult, even for the best of players out there. As you can see, there was a super snipe by the Corruptors there. They sniped in the 7th Nexus built by the Protoss player. Serral is probably chanting right now. He denied the 7th base, and now it looks like all of the naturals have been taken. The minerals are being mined out everywhere. A Serral player, Zerg player, has been very lucky to accumulate a large number of resources, because obviously his troops were not killed off as intensively, and he was able to mine a lot more. So even with all those Ultralists lost, the Zerg player was very much able to successfully outproduce and outsave resources and gas. Now, as you already noticed, this Protoss player army is like ultra super gas heavy, and all these imposters that have been built here obviously cost hell of a lot of money for the Zerg 2, but I mean money in gas, but it seems that the Zerg just simply managed to outproduce. He is currently in control of 8 bases, while the Protoss player probably just started to mine his 7th base, and it seems that all those expensive Protoss units are not paying off in the long term, because the Protoss is nearly broke, and only now he's rebuilt his fleet fully. So the only thing now the Zerg player needs to do is either destroy most of the buildings in the main or somehow take out that fleet. Let's take a look at the upgrades. It's 26 minutes. If not all upgrades are finished, it would be very awkward, right? And it looks like Zerg missile attack, it's on level 2, and Zerg flyer carapace is on level 2. I'm not sure why that's the case, but it seems that they just cannot do this right, and obviously this reduces Zerg victory chances by a large margin, because if you go to unit tester, you'll find out that well upgraded units fight much more effectively than any other unit out there. And Serral decides on a massive number of static defense to control the ground against all that fleet. Massive number of infestors to take control of enemy units and fungal growth them just as if storms would do. And his tactics are consistent attacks in between the second and third base that proved to be complete disasters because those couldn't achieve anything. A massive corruptor fleet that would be fighting Protoss fleet, but this time he's just not doing enough damage. Corruptors are consistently sniping away nexuses and important buildings, and that's it. No lurkers, no hydralisks, only ultralisks for the ground force, supported by queens and an incredible number of infestors is the choice for the Zerg player. Here it seems that they are moving on to the final assault here. All the forces are set up. If for any reason the Zerg would have to retreat, they would be retreating over all those spore crawlers. After the proxy attack on the third base, the Zerg is launching an offensive into the 7th base. He will try to draw out the Protoss fleet, and it seems that the fleet is just not there. For some reason, he on that bridge would have a truly good advantage because all of those infestors would certainly be in range. He's going to draw a super high number of tumors that will just tear into the Protoss side and will probably draw out the fleet. Maybe that's exactly what Zerg wants to do. The fleet will have to try and take out those tumors, and the Zerg player will try to take over that fleet with infestors, fungal growth, and will be eliminating it with all those corruptors. The fleet has been found, but it does not have a mothership, and it seems that at the point of the attack it wasn't even controlled right there. Okay, the first tumors are moving. Together with the tumors, the ultralisks will be on their way, and in the newly built creep, all of these ground static defense spore crawlers will be successfully fighting the fleet. So this is the side where the Zerg player wants to engage, but it seems that the fleet is just not coming. He's going to send all of these further on, so he wants to move his static defense as close as possible to the Zerg player. I think that's just absolutely incredible play. He's going to bring out large number of infested terrans so that these could fight away enemies interceptors, and with whatever he has left, with the use of increased supply by having spore crawlers and by having infested marines, the Zerg wanted to draw out the enemy player. So he wants to have the enemy player attacking a Zerg force, while Zerg force is inside of defensive forces that consists of maybe 25 or so spore crawlers that will effectively be engaging all those interceptors. It seems that Protoss player is sending away those probes so that he could free up some supplies. You can see the probe count, or the harvester count for both of these is incredibly close. Now the Serral is attacking with all those infested marines. Here the storms will have to deal with those marines even before they hatch out. It's a massive battle here. The units can be seen clearly, but the fungal growth will reveal them, and some of the units have been taken away. Wow, look at that! All those corruptors were bunching up in a small ball that's attacked by the void rays very effectively. Storms all over the place. Massive number of void rays have been taken by infestors, and without the void rays supporting the Zeppelins will be taken away from the sky. On the other hand, the Protoss player decides to build as much stalkers as possible, and these stalkers, with the use of blink, will consistently be wiping away corruptors off air. And in the meantime, the Zerg will lose most of its army, but will create a production queue which is incredibly massive. He builds large number of Zerglings here. More than 50 Zerglings have been built. The corruptor number is kept on 29, and infestors have been reduced to only 4 from the entire swarm. 5 Ultra is built, and the Zerg player still has 6,500 minerals in the bank, an additional over 3,000 gas. Now he attacks all those buildings in the Protoss main base, which is going to be devastating for the Protoss production. Obviously, if he can take out the fleet beacon, it would be all over for the Protoss carriers. And he attacks Protoss 5th base with all the links. Showtime tries to defend it with Zealots, but it seems that that's to no avail. That's just not going to cut it, even if they're placed very perfectly there within the choke points where the links can surround Protoss unit. They still are not large enough in number to do much about it. Now this army of Serrals, from a massive number of links of 72 in total, as you can see, that's incredible, will soon turn into an army that morphed itself from Zerglings to Banelings, from Corruptors to Broodlords, and together with Broodlords, Serral shouldn't have much of an issue further fighting the Protoss Stalker army right there. So he has 23 Banelings, 11 Broodlords, massive number of Zerlings. Well, that got reduced to 14, but they did a lot of damage. They wiped out the 5th base, they moved into the 2nd base, they moved into the 3rd base, and they have been reinforced by additional 30 or so Zerglings. Now this looks like a final push. All those Broodlords are going to deal with the photon cannons. Mostly all the minerals have been mined out, and it seems that Protoss here will stand no chance to fight the Broodlings that are being thrown away so decisively. Serral has placed his Broodlords in those storms for too long, and all those infestors are going to take control of those very powerful units called Archons, and it's certainly all over. Most of the money has been mined out, and Serral gained another victory.